Alright guys, so we are inside Blender 3D once again, and here we're going to be creating that animation which you saw in the intro. So let's begin. First of all, I'm just going to get rid of everything and just save your project. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to Blender Kit and I'm going to be adding a car from there. If you don't have Blender Kit installed, just go to the internet and search Blender Kit. Okay, and just go to the first website and you can just download this plugin from here just by pressing this button right here. And if you just press it, you're going to see the instructions are going to be visible here as well. But I'm just going to show you how to install it. It's very simple, just the way you install any add-on in Blender. Go to Edit, Preferences, Add-on, and just press this install button right here and just browse to wherever you downloaded that. For example, I downloaded it in downloads. Just select this and just press install add-on. I'm not going to do that because I already do have it installed, but once you install it, it's going to come up right here and it's not going to be checked by default, so just check it and it's going to be enabled, and then you can just access Blender Kit from here. Okay, now if you search car, you're going to see some of them are going to be paid, some of them are going to be free. So you want to use a free one, right? Just go to search filters and press free first. And I can see all cars you have. If you want to go for a cartoon style, you can go with this. If you want to go for an average car, you can go for this. And you're going to see you have a lot of options, right? Maybe we could try this as well. Yeah, how about we try this? I did this animation previously with like some other, I think I did it with this McLaren. And I did this with this car as well. But this time I'm probably gonna try with this this car right here. It looks pretty good. It's a 70 MB model, so it's gonna take some time to download. Obviously depending on your internet speed. And although this render can be done on any computer, basically any computer, although an animation is going to take some time to render, right? And I would recommend you to have at least an RTX graphic card if you can, if you have that, then that's great. Otherwise, you can still make this, but it's going to take some time to render. Just keep that in mind. And while this downloads, let me just show you where we're going to be getting our materials from, and it's going to be polygon.com. Polygon with 2 I's. And once you go to this website, you're going to see this what do you call it? This page, and you can just go to textures, and you can, I think it's also going to ask you to create an account. And now most of these are going to be paid, but if you go to this free one, this free section right here, you're going to see all these materials are free. And so the ones we're going to be using are going to be this one for the floor. This is going to be the floor of the garage, and this is going to be the walls of the garage. And we're going to be adding lights over here as well on these walls as well. So next up, what we're going to be doing is that first, to download this, just press this material, and the resolution, obviously it depends on your PC. The higher you go, the more high resolution it's going to be. But I would recommend you not to go above 2K or maximum 3K, because when you double the resolution, so for example, you go from 2K to 4K, it's going to quadruple the amount of load which it gives on your computer. So I would recommend you to go 2K or 3K maximum. No need for 4K. We can always tile the texture and it's going to look just as good. Okay, so next up, we can also download this. So once you've downloaded both of these, you can just press this free download button right here. And once you've downloaded them, I'll just extract them to a folder wherever you can access them. Okay, so now if I go to my Blender, you're going to see this car has also been imported. Let me just go to my look dev mode and let's see how the materials look. I hope they're pretty good. Although generally Blender Kit models do have very good materials, and they're generally pretty good models, even the free ones. And you can obviously import a model from anywhere you want, but I would definitely recommend you to use Blender Kit because of how easy it is to import them and how good the models are. And you're gonna see it looks pretty good, doesn't it? Okay, perfect. So next up, we're gonna be adding a plane, mesh plane, and just make sure that it's make sure that the car is aligned with the ground. It's a little bit above, so just select the plane and Z, move it up a little bit, something like that. We don't want the car to be floating on the plane, do we? And I think that should be a good size for the garage, something like that. I think that should be a good size, something like that. Perfect. So now how do we actually apply the material to this? Well, that's pretty easy. We're going to be going to the material menu, and you're going to see this polygon material converter right here. You might not have this if you don't have the polygon material converter add-on installed. So to install that, just go to the internet and search polygon material converter. And and if you watched my previous tutorials, you already do know how to do this. Just simply go to the first website and just press this download polygon material converter right here. And you can just install it exactly the way we did with Blender Kit. Just edit, preferences, add-ons, and just enable it. Exactly like that. Perfect. So once you've done that, you're going to see, let me just check this material, because we might actually have to apply a leather material to this as well, because this does not look that great right now, but we'll see how it looks later on. Okay. All right. So with that material, with that add-on installed, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be selecting this plane, and you can press this browse button right here, and then you can just browse over to wherever you downloaded that what do you call it, downloaded that material, right? So you can, I'm just going to go to assets, materials, and I have this whole folder in which I store my materials. Most of them are from Polygon, and some of them are from this website right here, Polyhaven. They also provide really good textures, and you don't even need any add-on or anything for that. All you need is basically, they're going to give you wait, they have HDRIs as well, but if you go to this textures menu, textures page, you're going to see all these textures, and they're totally free. You can just select any and just make sure that this blend file is selected, and this resolution, I'm going to make it 2K, and you can download these from here as well. They're pretty good, and they already do come with all the settings applied. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to Blender for now, and we're going to be selecting this metal floor and accept, and now we're going to be pressing this load and apply material. Now if I go to my look dev mode, you're going to see that it is applied. Perfect. But one thing which I'm going to be doing is that, actually I'm not going to do that for now. So that's perfectly fine. Although the scale is a little too high, so I'm just going to be selecting 3. Something like that should be good. Maybe even 2. Actually 3 was fine, I think. Yeah, 3 is fine. We can tweak it later on, obviously. Actually never mind, I'm just going to go with 2. Okay, perfect. So next up what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be making the whole garage. So just select this plane, press tab to go into edit mode. Go to edge select mode by pressing this, or 3 on your number pad. I don't have a number pad personally, so that's why I always use these. Okay, so just select this edge and select this edge as well. Press E to extrude them and Z to lock them to the Z axis. So extrude them something like that. I think something like that should be good. So now you're going to see we have this studio, this basically garage kind of thing. Okay, but the material is so messed up right here. It's not looking that great, is it? So what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be selecting both of these faces. Actually, let me just press A to select everything and press U to open the UV mapping menu, and let's just smart UV project them first. Once you do that, you're going to see all the textures are going to be applied properly. But we don't want this exact same material applied over there, right? We want this to have a different material. To be precise, we want this material right here, okay, which we have already downloaded. And so for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be selecting these 2 faces, and then I'm going to be pressing this plus button right here to add another material slot. Let's just create a new material for now. It's just going to be a dummy material, and I'm going to press assign. Okay, now you're going to see these 2 walls are going to have this material.001. If I change the base color, you can see they're going to have that material. Now in this slot, we're going to be adding a polygon material, precisely that one. So I'm just going to be pressing this browse button once again. Go back and just browse to wherever you saved this material right here, and I think I had this one. Press accept, load and apply material. Now you're going to see it's properly applied, but the scale is way too large. So how about we make it like 7? I think that's fine. Although I want these bars to be vertical. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the shading menu. And actually there are 2 ways to do this. I'm going to show you both of them. So you can just go to this material, just press this and just go to material menu. Make sure that this metal corrugated iron sheet is selected. And here you can just go to this rotation and just select 90, and you're going to see it's going to be rotated. Another thing which you can do is that you can go to the UV editing menu, and you can select both of these faces. You're going to see here we have them. Just select them, just click anywhere, press A and R and 90. Now you're going to see if I go back to my layout menu, you can see that that's done as well. So you can use any of those methods. All right, so let's move on to the next step, which is going to be to add the lights. Now to add the lights, I'm going to press add light and then area light. You could do that. However, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be adding a cube. If I go to my top view, and if I just move it somewhere here, if I go to my edit mode, I'm going to press S Shift Z to scale it down in all axes except for the Z one. So you're going to see it's going to be something like that, and I'm going to be pressing S Z, and I'm going to be increasing the scale. Let's just go to the front view, place it something like that. That's going to be a light bar, okay, and we're going to have many of these light bars. I guess 4 or 5 of them. So just place it something like that. Right, so that's going to be one of our light bars, okay? Let me just move it a little bit down. It obviously doesn't have to be perfectly aligned or anything like that, because the edges are not going to be visible. Our camera is going to be something like that. So only the start of the light bar is going to be visible. So I'm just going to be moving it a little here. And now what we can do is that we can actually duplicate this. But before that, I'm going to be adding a material to this. Let's add a material and just name it light. I'm not going to be adding any emission or anything like that as of yet. We can obviously do that later on. But I'm going to be showing you the reason why I did why I added the material first before duplicating this. So first of all, let me just duplicate it. Shift D and press Y, something like that. Now you can obviously do repeat this process again and again, or you can just simply press Shift R on your keyboard to repeat this action, and that's a shortcut for you guys. All right, perfect. So that's gonna be those are gonna be our lights. Actually, I think they're way too close, so I'm just gonna be undoing them. Let me just make them a little. They should be a little far away. Something like that should probably be good. Shift R and just do that. Perfect. So that is pretty good. Just save your project. All right. So the reason why I added the material before duplicating them was because now they already do have this material applied. And if I just go to any one of them, and if I go to the surface, and if I, let's say, for example, change the color, you're going to see all of them are going to be changing at the same time. And that's another reason why we used a cube instead of an area light. And that's because we can tweak all of the lights at the same time. And that's a very good advantage we have. So now I'm going to be going to the emission channel, and I'm going to be setting the color to white, and the emission strength, let's keep it at 6 for now. Now we're going to be rendering this. We're going to be going to the rendered view, and let's see how it looks. But before that, let me just switch from EV to cycles and make sure your device is GPU compute if you have a GPU, otherwise just set it to CPU. And let me just render it. Let's see how it looks. All right, so it does look pretty good. However, it's pretty dark. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be selecting the light material, and I'm going to be increasing the strength to something like, I don't know, 10 maybe. That's way too less as well. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be, maybe we could like move the car closer to the lights probably. And let's just select this, select objects and just move it something like that in the x-axis. I think that should be better. Probably, hopefully. Yeah, I think that's much better. Although one thing which we're noticing right now is that this side of the car is pretty good, but this side is very, very dark. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be duplicating these cubes, and I'm going to be adding one from here as well. So just press Shift D, X, and just move it here. I'm going to be decreasing the size of the X, and I'm going to be increasing the size in the Y. Something like that. GZ, move it up. And that's just going to be a general fill light. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be pressing this button right here, and now this button shows you the number of items which have this material applied. So right now it's 6, and if I press this, you're going to see we're going to have another material, light.001, and that's going to be another material created for this one, and we can then tweak this independently. So let me just see how it looks for now, and then I'm going to be adjusting the strength, because I do want there to be a slight bit of a difference between the lights. Let me just press Ctrl B and define the render region, so that it doesn't take that much time to render. And I think it looks pretty good. However, this side is way too bright, so I'm going to be setting this to, I don't know, 6 maybe, or maybe even 3. Perfect. Now what we can do is that we can either just go with this material, or we can like make changes to this car material. So I feel like we should add a black reflective material to this. I think that's going to be looking that's going to look pretty good. So just like this car paint material, and in the shading menu, we can just go to the shading menu, and we can select this. Okay, so we do already have these what do you call them, we do have these color presets which you can use. So if, for example, if you plug in the silver one, you're going to see it's going to become a silver one. Although we are going to be creating a new material from scratch, so what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be creating another Shift A principal BSDF. We're going to be creating one, and I'm just going to be dragging this in the front, and so the BSDF is going to go to the surface, and we can change the surface color to black, and we can reduce the roughness, something like that. Don't reduce it to like absolutely 0, because I mean obviously every car out there, or every shiny thing does have a certain amount of roughness, and I think that's going to be pretty good. Yeah, perfect. So we can probably increase the roughness a little bit. Or maybe even reduce it a little bit, and we can try increasing the metallic. and then increase the roughness. I don't know. Maybe we could make it a slight gray. Yeah, so I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty realistic and it looks pretty good. So one thing which I'm going to be doing is that we can maybe try, maybe we can try white and increase the roughness. So we can try this metallic shade. That looks pretty good too. Alright, so I'm just going to be leaving this to you guys. You can just choose whichever material you want. But I personally prefer the black one, this one. I think that looks pretty damn good. Alright, so that's done. And let's go back to the layout mode, and now we can start with the framing and then with the animation. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to the look dev mode so that it doesn't take that much resources. And what we're going to be doing is that I'm just going to be starting with the animation. So first of all, I'm going to be pressing Ctrl Alt P to just remove this, what do you call it, render region, and then add a camera. And we can just go inside the camera by pressing this button right here, view lock camera to view, so that we can move the camera with our viewport. And now the focal length, I'm just going to be setting the focal length to something like 70 millimeters, because that's going to be a pretty sharp focal length, so that we can zoom in and we can get a very good close-up. So I'm going to be starting with the logo, because that's going to be pretty cool. Let me render it and let's see how it looks while rendered. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, one thing which you're going to be noticing, one thing which you might notice right now is that basically the problem with this render is that it looks pretty flat. There's very little contrast. So we can just go to our render settings, go down to color management, and look, you can set it to high contrast. Now you're going to see it's going to be very contrasty, or we can maybe even set it to medium high contrast if you want. And one other thing which I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be increasing the roughness slightly, something like that. And with this as well, with the front material, stainless steel clean, I'm going to be increasing the roughness slightly, not too much, of course, just a tad bit, that we have more of those reflections. I think that's pretty good. All right, so yeah, I think apart from that, everything seems to be pretty good. This model is actually pretty well designed, and it's pretty well made. So credits to the one who made it, the person, the designer. And I'm going to be just zooming in. So animation, the way animation works is that you add keyframes. So I'm just going to be just make sure that your camera is in your scene collection, and just make sure your camera is selected, and just go to the first frame and just select, place your camera wherever you want the animation to start. Press I, and then press location, rotation, and scale. It's going to record all that. Then just go forward. So for example, I'm going to go to frame number 50, and then you could just move the camera wherever you want, something like that, and then press I again, and location, rotation, scale. So now you're going to see, if I play this, you're going to see the speed is pretty fast. So I'm just going to make it like, I don't know, 80 frames maybe. Right, but then the animation is a little too long. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be deleting this keyframe, and we're going to be doing the animation again. My bad, I accidentally deleted the camera itself. So I'm just going to be selecting the camera, select only this keyframe, and then press delete. Okay, and then we can just go forward like to 50, and then we can just move it slightly, something like that. No, so not too much. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now after frame 50, there is no animation, right? And we can just go forward one frame, and then we can reframe the whole camera. We can probably like start with this. Start with the tires. So generally, what looks good is that, well, I mean, it's obviously a personal preference, but generally what looks good is that we first do close-ups, and then we just show the whole car. And I'm going to be doing something like that. Just make sure that the background is not visible, unless you've actually designed that as well, then that's your choice. And another thing which I'm going to be doing is that you're going to see right now, there's this whole gray background, right, which is also giving some light off. So if you just go to our world properties, and if you set the background to black, you're going to see some extra contrast and some extra punch, because the only lights now that are affecting this object are basically the ones which we've added. So just save your project, press Ctrl B, and just define this render region so that we only see that. I'm going to start with that. Select the camera. Make sure your camera is selected, because I've made that mistake tons of times, that I select another object and then I animate that object by mistake. So just press I, and let's go to frame number, I don't know, I guess 90, and then move it a little forward. I'm just going to go back to my look dev mode, and that should be pretty good. Perfect. So let me just drag this to like frame number 100 because it was a little too fast previously, and now it's perfect. So now we can just go back to frame number 101 and we can reframe our camera once again. So this time maybe we should do the back. How about we do the backlights? Let me just start from something like, I don't know, I guess I'm going to start from there and then I'm going to move up. Okay. Let's render it and let's see how it looks, how it's going to look in the final render. I think it looks pretty good because of the contrast it creates, like the lights are being shown in the background. I think that's going to be pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good looking. And I'm going to be going to the frame number 101. Let me just go back to the look dev mode because the viewport mode looks pretty flat. Just set a keyframe, go forward, something like 150, and move it up, something like that. I'm just going to be going back. I think that's pretty good. However, the problem is we've only panned the camera, right? We're not rotating or anything like that. So just move it up and just rotate it a little bit as well. But before that, I'm just going to be making sure that the tire is the focus of the view. I'm just going to go to the camera, move up. And the way I focused on the tire was that I was by pressing Alt and middle mouse button, by the way. So I can just move up a little bit and I can move up like this as well. And now you're going to see it's going to be a much more interesting animation. Perfect. So after frame number 150, frame number 151, I think now we should like start showing like the whole car, something like that. Maybe I should like do something like that. So I'm going to start from right there because we don't want the edges to be visible in the camera. So I'm just going to add a keyframe right here and then we can move forward. Something like that. Oops, my bad. I had to move forward in time first. Go to frame number 200. Obviously the time and the keyframing depends on you and what you want to do. So I would actually recommend you not to copy my animation and come up with your own ideas. That's going to be very good for your creativity. I think that's pretty good. And after that, I'm going to go to frame number 201. Let's like show the interior, something like that. Yeah, the interior looks pretty good as well. So let's just showcase that. Perfect. Now let's press I. Go to frame number 200 and I don't know, let's do 40 now. Let's move it a little bit like that. I and frame. Perfect. And now I think that should be our last this should be our last animation. So frame number 250, instead of that, let's do frame 290. I think 290 should be good, and you can use your scroll wheel to zoom out and zoom in. By the way, you can also press the middle mouse button to move forward and up and down. And sometimes the problem with this is that sometimes your keyframes are not going to be visible if you go down. And once this happened to me and I was so confused. I was like, what's wrong? Then I just pressed the middle mouse button and I dragged it down. You're going to see the keyframes are going to come back. Perfect. So now let's render it and let's see how it looks. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? This model is so good, actually. That's why I like Blender Kit a lot, and generally Blender, I like it a lot, to be honest. I used to use Cinema 4D, but this is much better than that. And now I think we should like render. We should just and this should be a final reveal. What do you call it? Reveal. This should be the final frame. Just make sure that it's centered. Press I. And then go to frame number 290 and then just move it up. Something like that, I think. Now, one problem which you're going to be noticing is that if I play this animation and if I render it, you're going to see one problem. That problem is that this light is actually visible in our view, which we don't want. So what I'm going to do for that is that I'm just going to be selecting this light, go to Object Properties, Visibility, and inside this Ray Visibility, just uncheck this camera. Now it's going to disappear, but it's going to be acting on our object as well. So that's going to be pretty good. And one thing which we can do is we can play around with the lighting a little bit. So what I'm going to try is that I'm going to be adding a top light right there so that we can highlight that shape, because that side is pretty flat. And we can try doing that. If it looks good, then we're going to go with it. If not, then we're going to be just removing the light. So, I mean, we don't have anything to lose, to be. And if I just go to my look dev mode and if I just turn on the scene lights and scene world, actually, never mind. I'm not going to do that. I was expecting it to work, but it only in the viewport, in the look dev mode, it only recognizes the actual lights which we add like this. If we have emission applied to any object, then that's not going to come up. And that's just a limitation of what do you call it, the look dev mode. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be duplicating this light right here. Shift D, Z. Let's go to the top view and let's place this right, something like that. Let's scale it down in the y-axis, something like that. And how about we move it a little there? Let's move it down a little bit. And let's see how it looks. Let's see how it looks. It doesn't look particularly great. If I move it down, let's see how that looks. Not necessarily. I don't think I'm going to go with that. If I bring it super close, it's still not highlighting anything. It's still not doing anything. If you want to add it, then you can surely add it, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so we are done with our animation. We're done with basically our whole render. If I just play it once again in look dev mode, so you can see what exactly we did there. All right, that looks pretty good. So now to render this, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the render properties first, and let's figure out how many samples do we need for this to look good. So just go to a frame in which the whole car is visible. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be rendering this, and I'm just going to be turning off this noise threshold thing, and I'm going to be turning on the denoise. So this is just going to give us a rough estimate at what point, or at what sample number does it start to look good. So right now, 74 samples. I'm just going to be rendering this again, so just move it a little behind, and you're going to see the samples are going up. So I think it starts to look good at sample number 50. Yeah, so anything above 50 should be good. So let's just do 60 for good measure. So just max samples, just set it to 60. You can obviously go higher if you have a stronger computer. I have a RTX 3070, so it's pretty strong, but it's not the best of the best. But I would recommend you to not go above like 100 frames, 100 samples, because at that point it's just a waste of resources. And yeah, that's basically it. So and let's go to this output properties, and let's set up our output destination. So just press this browse button right here, and we can just what do you call it, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be creating a new folder. I'm just going to be naming this car _anim _2 Skillshare. And inside this folder, I'm just going to be pressing accept, and the all the frames of the animation are going to be saved inside this folder, and they're all going to be saved in PNG form. You can obviously save it as a video if you just go here, and if you just select, for example, if you just select FFmpeg video, but that's obviously not recommended, because the problem is that once for example it crashes, then you basically don't have then you basically have to render the whole animation again, right? So that's not something we want. And yeah, so I'm going to do that. Just press render, and let's render the animation.